Hello. In this video, I'll implement and test the usage of instance methods during the hands-on session of DrawingApp 1.2. So let's continue where we left off in version 1.1. To recapitulate the situation in the previous version, well, it works, but the problem is that we have duplicate code whenever we want to print out the current state of the object. So I have 4 lines here, I have 4 lines here. Every time I want to print out x, y, height, and width. So how to solve this? By implementing an instance method in the rectangle class. First thing I do is create the necessary packages for version 2. So right click on lib, new package, and enter dm02 instance methods. Enter. And the same in the app package. dm02 instance methods. As stated earlier, I'm not using Git, so the version control system, because first I don't want to bring in another tool. I rather prefer to later focus on implementing OO in Java. And second, well, by keeping a history of all the steps in separate packages, we kind of have a nice overview in one glance. Now I'm going to copy the classes rectangle in the new package and DrawingApp as well. Now before copying them, make sure that the code compiles and runs, because we don't want to copy compile errors. Okay, click on rectangle, copy, and then paste. Okay, and do the same with the DrawingApp. Paste. Good, I'm closing all the windows and focus on version 2. Let's first eliminate some code we don't need. I'm going to delete all the code from rectangle 2. And so my goal is to simplify the client code here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as explained in the introduction, add an instance method in the rectangle class. Public, it's a void method because it doesn't return anything. It just prints something. No parameters. It needs to print out x, y, height, and width. Instead of typing everything from scratch, I'm going to copy the code that we had in the client code. So copy, pastes. How do we make this compilable? Well, since rectangle 1 was a variable declared in the main method of DrawingApp, it's not known within this method. And what happens under the hood is that an implicitly known reference variable is used, the this pointer. More on that in the under the hood video. So we can replace rect1 by this, or just delete this altogether, because the default implies that the this pointer is used as a prefix to the usage of a property. Whether I type this.x or just the property, it comes down to the same thing. I'm going to keep one notation with the this pointer though. Now I'm going to create a new comment block as well. Instance methods. Okay, this for the rectangle class, how to use it in the DrawingApp. The 4 lines that I have selected, I'm going to put them in comments. So there's a shortcut for that. Code and then comment with line comment, Control /. And I can replace the 4 lines by rect1.print. Now, before continuing, I was expecting IntelliJ to propose the print method, because it is implemented as a public method in the rectangle class. But it's not doing this. So maybe I have forgotten something. So now I wonder, am I using the correct class, rectangle? And for that I need to have a look at the import statement. And indeed, the problem is that I'm still importing the rectangle class of the previous version. So I need to replace demo1 by demo2 and import the rectangle class from that package. Let's retype it, .print, and now indeed IntelliJ proposes the method. Okay, I'm doing the same down below, so I put these lines in comment and replace it by rect1.print. Run it, and the output should be exactly the same as in the previous version. And indeed, we first have a printout of the default values, and then the printout of the properties set. And so it works, but the library class rectangle is printing to the console. Let's have a look. So the print method prints to the console. In the introduction video of version 2, I explained the bad practice. Because the print method, what it wants to do is inform the user. And so that makes sense in a console application by printing information to the console. But this information will not be visible if the app is a desktop application or a mobile app. So in those two situations, we need to find another way to inform the user. And how we do this is by printing the information in a string object and return that object to the user. Let the user, so the client application, decide then how to deal with the information. So how do we pass this information in a string object to the client, as seen from the rectangle class? By implementing a public method which returns a string, and we call it the toString methods. And how do we do this? Well, not going to start from scratch. Copy, paste, return string.formats, and then make some adjustments. X, Y, height, width, and then pass as 4 arguments. So this.x or just x, y, height, and width, and delete the remaining lines. I've got 2 braces here, one must go. How to use it in the clients, DrawingApp. So I'm going to comment the rect.print and replace it by, well, first an explicit call to the toString method. Rect info is rect1.toString. And now it's up to the client to decide how to deal with that information. A desktop application or mobile app could deal with it by displaying the information in a dialog box or in a status bar. But in our case, we're using a console application, so we can just print it out to the console. Just using a println of rect info. And do something similar down below. So I copy those 2 lines, paste. Now I just want to reuse that variable, rect info, which is declared above, and put rect1.print in comments. So run, and we have the same outputs. So the zeros and the specific values. Now there are some shortcuts that I can use. Well, first of all, I'll demonstrate it down here. First of all, I don't need to use a separate value. I can directly just use rect1.toString and pass that one to the println methods. Or even shorter is just pass the name of the reference variable. I don't need to name the method explicitly. Let's run it again. So what I expect now is once the default value and twice the specific properties. Let's start from the top. So we have once the default values, and then 1 and 2 times the specific properties. Okay, now from now on I'm not going to use the print method anymore. Put that one in comments. I want to change the output format of the toString as well, and actually print everything on one line instead of a new line after each property, because otherwise I'll have to scroll too much if I want to view all the properties of my rectangle. And the format that I want to use is the following. I'm going to paste some code in here. What I want to display is first of all everything on one line, so there are no new lines anymore. First thing I want to be visible is the name of the class, rectangle, the name of the properties, equal sign, and then I reserve 4 spaces for the value of the x property, but aligned to the left, so the value sticks to the equal sign. That's why the minus sign is 4. Then 2 spaces between each property, and I do that for y, height, and width. If I run the code again, I won't have to scroll that much anymore. Going back to the DrawingApp, so I have my first printout, which is this one, and then the 2 last printouts are these 2. Okay, that's for the print method. Last 2 methods that I want to add are the getArea, so public float, we're going to return get area of a rectangle, return height times width, and then something similar for the perimeter. There the formula is height plus width times 2. And use that in the clients. So I want to call them explicitly and assign the return value to a specific variable. In the client, area is rect1 dot get area, and float perimeter is rect1 dot get perimeter. Print it out. In a printf, area is %f, %f, 2 arguments, area and perimeter. Run the code. Now I've got too many zeros here. Use the zeros, and I can remove them by specifying .0f. .0, run again, and I've got an area of 20,000 and a perimeter of 600. And so far for the implementation of instance methods. Time to draw your attention to a problem in the current implementation, as we did at the end of version 1. So what is the problem here? Well, going back to the specifications for all properties of a rectangle, we stated that the x and y properties must have a value that lies between 0 and 1000. The height and the width must lie between 10 and 500. Well, let's check that, but I'm going to do that with a new rectangle object. Rectangle, rect2 is new rectangle. Let's set some properties. rect2.x is, let's pass a negative value. rect2.y is, maximum is 1000. Well, let's make it 2000. rect2.height is minus 100. rect2.width 5. So what I'm doing here is I'm passing invalid data. Let's print out rect2, reformat, and run the code. As expected, in the output we see that the values correspond to the values that we have passed to the properties. But we are developing an app that is not supposed to accept invalid data. The values that we passed must be according to the specifications. And this is not the case. What about the area and perimeter? Copy, paste rect2.getArea and rect2.getPerimeter. Run the code. We have a negative area and perimeter. Clearly, that doesn't make sense. So to summarize the problem, in the current implementation of 1.2, we can pass invalid data to rectangle objects. How can we prevent this from happening? That is what I'll demonstrate in the next version when I talk about encapsulation and validation. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.